All right, good evening, everybody. Good evening, good evening. Can you do me a favor once you come in? Can you hit the share button for me? That's what I need you to do. I need you to hit the share button as we get into this conversation, and we are blessed to have with us Pastor Thurman Tillman. He's the pastor of the First African Baptist Church right here in the city of Savannah. Mr. Hollis Johnson, he is the owner of Above and Beyond Limousine. He works with me in so many different aspects in our community, Father's Mentoring Son. He's a part of the League of Brawn. He's a part of the Tourism Council of the city of Savannah. So it's just an honor and a privilege to have him with us tonight. But I need y'all to do me a favor. I need you to hit that share button. If you're following us on YouTube, I need you to share and let somebody know that we are online as we have some conversation tonight about this vaccine and about COVID-19, and we want to get right information to you. We want to get just as real and just as transparent as we can be, because there's so much mixed information going on. There's so much hesitancy going on about this virus that we just want to take some time to share the right information. And what better to do that than to have a medical doctor, for me, not just a medical doctor, but my primary care physician. And I'm grateful that he has agreed to join us. And that is the person of Dr. Willie Epps from Epps Medical and Associates. So I want to encourage all of you, hit that share button and let's get people in to this conversation tonight. I'm going to give Pastor Tillman an opportunity to greet us. And then I'm going to give Dr. Epps an opportunity to greet us, and Brother Hollis Johnson. He'll be popping in and out because he's a hard-working man, so he's working as well. But others will be coming into our conversation. Pastor Tillman.
Thank you, Pastor Seals. Listen, thank you so much for that you're doing, and I'm excited about the fact that at Connors Temple Baptist Church on this Saturday from 9 to 11, there will be an opportunity to share in a vaccination clinic. I can't say enough for how important it is. We've been hearing it over and over and over and over again, get vaccinated. We've been hearing that. Many people have. Those who are my age and older, I think we're pretty much at 80% in Savannah Chatham. But there's others who have to do it. And why do you do it? We ask you to do it because of the love that you have for each other, the love we have for God. God said, how can you love me who you have not seen and you hate your brother you see every day? So a way of showing our love is by getting vaccinated and making sure everyone else who we know does. So tonight, you get to hear some facts. Tonight, you get to hear some, and hopefully, prayerfully answer questions you may have. And you may have questions that may have you like, I don't know if I really want to do this. I like to say, especially, hats off to Don Baker, who almost, at the very beginning, when there was a trial, and she thought it may be something that could help our community. And she was one of those persons who took the test from the very beginning. She had it months before anybody else could have it. And Don is doing great. Yeah. So all you got to do is just turn on, TV and see Don Baker, and you know that it's okay. You're going to live. It's going to be all right. So I'm just saying to everybody, just be encouraged. Have faith enough to trust God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And but as you trust in God, take time to depend and allow God to move through medicine. People may not know what's in aspirin, but you take aspirin. I said people may not know what's all in aspirin, and yet you take aspirin. You may not know what's in Tylenol, but you take it because you're trying to get an end result. Some folk I was talking to who said they don't want to take it, but they still smoking marijuana. You can smoke marijuana and be scared about what's in a vaccination that everybody else is out here taking. I'm just saying. So, my brothers and sisters, I'm just here tonight to encourage everybody to get vaccinated. I'm just encouraging you to do that. Please, let's make our community a safer community by getting that done. I do believe in order to have a safe community, you ought to have a saved community. Yeah, you ought to know Jesus, but also know Jesus and get vaccinated. That's my message. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you so much, Pastor Seals, for the opportunity tonight.
Thank you, Pastor Tillman. And it means a lot, Pastor Tillman. I know he don't want to hear this, but he's one of the elder statesmen in our city as it comes to pastoring. And so we thank God for him. Mr. Jerome Irwin is here with AFIL of Randolph Institute. He has joined this conversation, and not only the conversation, he's joined this effort into getting this information out about this vaccination and getting people to show up this coming Saturday. That's right, this coming Saturday, we are holding our vaccination clinic. And there are other men of God, again, I tell you, community leaders who has partnered with us to be able to do this. And we're grateful for them being a part of this. It's not about one of us, it's about all of us. But most of all, it's about our community. And as you can see on your screen, this coming Saturday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., a short window, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. across the street on the corner of MLK and Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and Gwinnett Street is our Worship Without Walls stage. Now, for some reason, if it rains on Saturday morning, we will be inside of the sanctuary. We're not going to stop. We're going to do what we have to do to make sure that this vaccination clinic goes off. All right. So let me welcome Dr. Willie Epps to this conversation. And Dr. Epps, thank you for being here with us tonight, sir.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I couldn't turn down an invitation such as this. So I appreciate the invitation that you've extended. I'm right in the middle of COVID. Have been since the pandemic began. I think my office closed for about 2 days, and then we opened up to see patients. We didn't stop seeing patients because of COVID. We have not stopped. We have 2 locations, so I was seeing patients at both locations. As a result of that, I did have COVID back in November, and it felt like I had chills for one day, and I kind of felt like my body was off. But thanks be to God, I was able to overcome that. 6 weeks after my exposure to COVID, I was vaccinated. As soon as I was able to get vaccinated, I was vaccinated. No one had to twist my arm. I had been through the COVID exposure and have been vaccinating my patients ever since. I was the first one in my office to get vaccinated. I believe in leading by example. I've done that and have admonished each and every one of my patients to get vaccinated. I'll talk a little bit later about the family of the coronavirus, viruses, but more specifically COVID-19. So, and we'll talk about the treatment, those that should get the vaccine and those that should not. There are some people that should not get the vaccine, those people that may have allergies to and have had problems with other immunizations in the past. Those persons should be more closely monitored, but we'll get into that. But again, I just wanted to say thank you for the invitation, my brother. And anytime you call me, I'll be there.
Most definitely. We want to thank Dr. Epps. Those of you who are watching us on Facebook and those of you who watch us on YouTube, please, ma'am, please, sir. Yeah, I know you can't see him. He doesn't have his video on, but you can hear it. You can hear it. There you go. There you go. So,
all right. No worries.
If you have any questions that you want to ask Dr. Epps, please put it in your comments. I am watching your comments on Facebook and YouTube, and so make sure you put them on there. So, Dr. Epps, and so glad to have Mr. Jerome Irwin, AFIL of Randolph, here with us as well. Let's talk about quickly, Dr. Epps, what is COVID? What is COVID-19?
COVID-19 is a specific coronavirus. There are multiple members of the coronavirus family, but this specific coronavirus was found in 2019. Now, we could debate about whether it was created in a lab or man-made, but I think we're way past that now. But COVID-19 is a specific virus of the Coronaviridae family. There are other viruses in this family, but this was a novel virus, one that we had never seen before. So we adopted the name COVID-19 because of the year that it was found. So there are other viruses in this family of viruses, but this particular virus has been known to mutate and is mutating at an alarming rate. So it first started where it was doing very well with the younger population, but that seems to have tilted a little bit because the virus is a living thing. It wants to live. So it will actually change its outer protein coat so that the body's immune system won't kill it. That's what we mean by variants. So we've heard of the Delta variant, which is not the original strain. That means that the virus will change its outer protein coat because it wants to live. So also we heard about the Lambda variant, which seems to be more virulent and more easily transmissible and more serious. So these viruses, they are nothing to play with, especially for those that have respiratory conditions, i.e. people who smoke, people who have asthma or may have been exposed in the shipyard or may have been truck drivers, worked in factories, been around secondhand smoke, so asthma. So these family of viruses love the lung. And once they really get hold of the lung, then without breathing, you have nothing.
Right.
So once the respiratory system is compromised, then we have to really jack up our treatment plan. We really have to escalate that. So once you can't breathe, then here comes the ventilator. There are more antivirals. There are more steroids. So the sicker you are, the more inclusive your treatment plan will get.
So let's talk about the effects, and you kind of hit on it, the effects of this virus. I'm hearing about, the breathing.
Yes.
I've heard people losing taste, they're losing smell,
Yes.
they're being weak. So kind of elaborate on some of the symptoms of this virus, how it affects us.
Well, popular symptoms mean that we lose taste. There could be a cough. You lose your smell. But more cases are being found where there are no symptoms at all, or they may even escape you, where you just feel a little bit off that day. Or maybe I need to drink some water. I've been really tired. You feel run down. So viruses usually do that. But this one specifically loves to take the taste away. And nobody really knows how the olfactory nerve, the sense of smell, is affected. But this COVID-19 loves to take away the sense of smell. So, but there are other problems that people can have too. They can actually lose part of their memory, where you feel like you're in a fog, right? They call that COVID brain. We're now finding out that people have COVID brain. I use some drugs in my practice every day, and there's no way that I could forget that some of these drugs that I use. But we joke about it because it's usually transient, and then you find you find your train of thought. Right. But there could be some serious repercussions to ignoring some of the simple signs.
Someone just made a comment that they had a bad reaction to the flu vaccine last year. That's why they haven't gotten the COVID vaccine yet. What would you say to them?
I would say to them that if they have an allergy to eggs or thimerosal, that person should not be taking the flu vaccine anyway. About 90% of the cases that we see in allergic reactions usually come from one of those two things. Now, what she's calling an allergy, sometimes the nurse or the doctor or the provider just didn't give the shot right. So sometimes they call a swelling of the arm a reaction. So I would have to be, that person would need to be more specific as to what their symptoms were. But usually with every vaccine, there are included in the study a number of people that will have some type of reaction. Now, some of those reactions are very mild, such as a swelling of the arm, a pain in the arm. You may even have a low-grade temperature, if you will. Those are not reactions. Reactions are if she just broke out in a generalized rash all over our body or something to that effect. But so I would have to be more educated as to what symptoms she exactly had. Have saying that, yes, she should be careful with the COVID vaccine. Sometimes people are allergic to the preservatives that are in these vaccines. In the COVID vial, there aren't too many preservatives, which is why we have to keep it at such a low temperature. So we have to keep the vaccine at a -25. I have the Moderna vaccine in my office. So we have to keep that at a -25, and we have to wait for about an hour for that vaccine to thaw out before we can start administering that vaccine to patients. So we need to have a group of 10. We want to be good stewards of what the government has given us. But in conjunction with that, the CDC has an app that you put on your phone. And we also employ all of the patients to put that app on their phone. The CDC will check in with you 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, 96 hours, and then a week. Then it will be twice a week from then on for about 3 months. So they keep very close contact that if you were to have a problem with the COVID vaccine, someone from the CDC will call you and check up on you.
Gotcha. Pastor Tillman, go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Yes, Doc, I've had people say, I heard someone who actually had the virus to tell me to please tell everybody, make sure you get vaccinated, because what he experienced was, he said it was like fire in him. He said he felt so bad that it just did something to him. And that he was cautious about getting the vaccination because between he had heart problems and he's going with his cardiologist, whether he should take it, whether he should not, whether he should take it, whether he should not. And he did not take it, and he ended up with the virus. And he's telling everybody, please make sure you take it. And he just talked about the burning. He just said it was just the worst feeling he ever had. And for a couple of days, he just wasn't sure. But he was home dealing with it, so he didn't have any respiratory issues. But he had like fire.
Gotcha. This virus can actually do a lot. In addition to the typical symptoms we usually see with viruses, the low-grade temperature, the muscle aches, the vomiting, diarrhea, you have the loss of taste and smell, and just the general malaise that you don't really feel like doing anything. Every day, somebody brings something new to the table, that this is the symptoms that we had. As we continue to be in this pandemic, we are learning so much more about symptoms that may be present in our community. So, yeah, you can have a myriad of symptoms or very low symptoms at all. So no one really knows how they're going to do with COVID until they get COVID. So, so that's why we urge everyone to get vaccinated, because you never know how you're going to do. How your neighbor did down the street may not be the variant that you get, and your response may be totally different.
Someone asked, as a CKD patient on HD, I guess you know what that means, Doc.
Yes, that's chronic kidney disease on hemodialysis.
Okay. Should they be vaccinated?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, they're behind the 8 ball. Anyone with what we call comorbid conditions, those persons with high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, asthma, lung issues, just about anybody should be immunized against COVID. Even my HIV patients, those that have immunocompromised systems are being vaccinated as well. So quiet as it's kept, those persons on dialysis, those are not really healthy people. So anyone that I would consider not in optimum health should be immunized, as well as those persons that are in optimum health. Those persons should be immunized as well.
That's right. We have the other Dr. Epps online as well. Mona Lisa Lancaster Epps. Listen, she has a business called Mona Lisa. It's on Abercorn. Let me tell you how you know where it is. It's next to Gary Hilliard's.
Absolutely.
A number of things there, body wraps, IV drip, which is an immune booster.
Yes.
Massages, all of that. So make sure you go. And she just made the statement that it's a virus, it's ever changing as well as the symptoms and response. So thank you so much. Let me go back before I ask Brother Jerome if he has a question. The young lady who said that she had a reaction from the flu vaccination, if I'm right, this young lady is out of Missouri.
Okay.
She had a seizure, was her reaction.
Wow. That's rare. That is rare, but it can happen. It's rare. She's not the first one, probably won't be the last one, but that's rare. That is rare. Now, there aren't too many reports of seizures with the COVID-19 vaccine because it's on a different technology than the flu vaccine. The COVID-19 vaccine is an mRNA vaccine trial, and we've been working with the mRNA technology for about 50 years now. It's not new technology. In fact, a lot of people, when they were clamoring for a technology to become present during the lockdown, then when we had the vaccine, a lot of people said, no, we made it too quick. Well, no, that's not exactly right, because the scientists have been working with this mRNA technology well before the pandemic ever occurred. So, but people clamored against the flu vaccine when it came out. People clamored against the polio vaccine when it came out. People clamored against the hepatitis B vaccine when it came out. So the clamor against the vaccine is nothing new, but nobody who's living at this time was in the last pandemic.
Right.
So the technology has gotten better. As the technology gets better, so does the science. If science is considered to have made a mistake in their recommendation, it's only because we got more information. So nothing stays the same in science. The way we treat diabetes now was not the way we treated diabetes 30 years ago.
Right.
We've gotten a slew of medicine since that time. We've gotten more tests. So the technology has gotten better, and the scientists have gotten better and smarter. And there are people that have actually, and one thing that we need to make clear is that the virus is not Democratic, it's not Republican, it's not independent, it's not libertarian.
Right.
It's going to do what it was designed to do, and that is infect human beings. Yes. Science does not care whether you believe it or not. It's just going to do what it's designed to do. But we have people who have dedicated their lives, man. These scientists, there are people on the earth that God has commissioned with the task of caring for their fellow human being. And some of these men and women around the world have dedicated their lives to finding solutions for the problems of mankind. This is not a politician's problem. They can't solve it. Yeah. This is a science problem. The scientists are going to have to solve it.
So let me ask this question. Brother Jerome, get ready because I'm coming to you. So the question is asked for patients who have received one vaccine and then contracts COVID. How long should they wait before they receive the second vaccination?
Is that for me?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. What I usually recommend is 4 weeks. Okay. Now, the question then becomes, how can someone get COVID and they've been vaccinated?
Right.
Right. Let me explain that. Because it's at the time that you receive your vaccination. Coronavirus takes about 14 days for it to incubate before you start to develop symptoms. If you are vaccinated within that 14 days, that virus role is going to play out. Because it takes time for your body, it takes about 4 weeks for your body to generate those special cells called antibodies to help fight off the virus. Now, if you've been vaccinated and you've done your 2 weeks, most of us aren't tested in that interim. So most people just wait their couple weeks and then they go back and then they get their second vaccine. What we should be doing is testing people with the nasal swab before they get their second vaccine. There is some efficacy that shows that even if you have one vaccine, it's not recommended that you just have one, but if you have just one vaccine, it's 92% effective. The second vaccine that you get really hyperstimulates your immune system and really gets those antibodies churning that in case you're at the ball game and you get a whiff of coronavirus, you don't end up in the hospital. You may just end up with a cold. There is a 5% chance. Each vaccine, whether you do the Pfizer or the Moderna, J&J, those will all protect you from going to the hospital with coronavirus. They will all do it. So, but more, I know the Moderna vaccine very well because that's the one we give here at the office. So I could just speak to that. You still have a 5% chance of contacting coronavirus, even though you've had the vaccine. But you have a 95% chance of not getting sick. I think anybody will take those odds. Okay? We don't have any vaccines that are 100% effective. We always have some people that slip through the crack for one reason or another. So I might as well, just say that. But you have a 95% chance of not contracting the serious form of COVID-19 if you've been vaccinated.
Mr. Irwin.
Yes, sir. Good evening to everybody. I'm glad to be amongst the land of the living and one that have taken the vaccine. But I've heard the doctor speaking, and he answered a whole lot of questions that a lot of people should be right now running to the front door trying to get out to get the COVID. You know, you hear people talking, man, and they come up with some of the weirdest ideas. Some people talk about they're gonna put a microchip in them in the arm. And I asked the question, if they put a microchip in your arm and you don't get COVID, so what? Somebody know where you're at. If you're doing something you don't want nobody to know, don't worry about it. Don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, like he said, then when I came up during the time of polio, and when I grew up, they used to give us a shot. Like he said, there were people with mama. They had all kind of excuses not to take the shot. Then they came up with putting it on the sugar cube, and everybody lined up because they wanted to taste the sugar. Didn't realize they were getting vaccinated. But you know, we need to urge, and I urge everybody. I've been putting it on Facebook. Everything I've got on there to be out there Saturday morning, because we need to protect ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And this is no joke. My son had it. My nephew has it. My two nieces got it now. And it ain't no joke. And I keep telling them, go get the shot. Go get the shot. We're gonna beat the system. No, you can't beat the system. Take the shot and beat the system.
You know, I think our president said it best when he said we're living in the pandemic of the unvaccinated.
Yeah, absolutely.
I heard something, and so grateful Pastor Quentin Morris has jumped on with us from Tremont Temple Baptist Church. I heard something just yesterday, actually just today, that in the U.S. last week, 72,000 young people contracted this virus, which is an 84% increase from the week before, and that these variants are much more transmissible. Let's talk about for a minute the importance of young people. I know the Pfizer allows young people 12 and up, which my daughter is 13 and special needs has taken that particular vaccine and is fully vaccinated and no problems, none whatsoever. Let's speak to the importance of our young people. I'm on you, Dr. Evans.
Okay, gotcha. Yes, we're finding that even more younger people are having problems with respiratory and other issues secondary to COVID. Like I said, the virus wants to live. It's going to find a body to get into. It's even if it has to mutate to do it, because it's a living organism. Mm-hmm. It wants to live. It needs a host. It needs a human body so that it could do what it's designed to do. So our younger people who don't go outside and play, our young people who are getting more overweight, they're becoming more stressed out. They're less likely to see the doctor. They hang out in closed groups, but yet they're refusing the vaccine because they think that they're immortal. Mm-hmm. So this thing has evolved into young people doing very well to the young people who just don't do as well now. My guess is with the virus changing, we'll see more of a stimulus from the CDC to get more young people vaccinated. This school year is going to really tell us a lot, right? Because we'll probably have a lot of teenagers and preteens that have not been vaccinated, right? So COVID most likely will run rampant through our school system with those that are unvaccinated. Well, who do these kids come home to? They come home to parents who may not have been vaccinated. Like I said earlier, our younger people do much better with COVID than the older population. Well, this young teen or this young preteen is going to come home to grandma, who may have multiple medical conditions. How do we break up the transmission within families and with our community? The answer is everyone has to get vaccinated.
Mhm.
There is real that you hear a lot of things on Facebook about metal. We were talking earlier about metal sticking to you and all this craziness and putting chips in you and doing all that. There are men and women who have dedicated their lives to the lives of science and not this foolishness, right? The US has become anti-science. It's becoming anti-science, right? So we know that some of those classes that a lot of people skip in junior high and high school, those science classes, a lot of people skip. And they get their information from Facebook or Instagram, or they read a crazy thing on Yahoo News. If you really want the correct information about coronavirus and the vaccine, please visit www.cdc.gov. The government is not trying to trick you. The government is not trying to track you.
Yeah.
The government has actually come up with a plan to get you a free vaccine. Free does not last forever. I'm old enough to remember when my parents stood in line for the free cheese. Brother, I'm waiting for my free cheese right now.
Yeah.
So free does not last forever. And there will be some changes coming up based upon how the nation is being vaccinated / unvaccinated. There will be some changes. So please go out and get your vaccine while the supply is plentiful. And we have wonderful avenues in places like Saturday when you can get your vaccine, CVS, Walmart, the doctor's office, even McDonald's, they're trying to do COVID vaccines. And the more people that get on board, the closer we are to a full recovery.
Someone asked a young lady just tested negative for COVID-19 after she quarantined for 14 days. How long should she wait for her first vaccination? Is it still that 4 weeks?
It's still that 4 weeks. Wash your hands, wear a mask, try to stay away from many people as you can, and be one of the first in line on your day to get your vaccine. Now, this is the kicker.
Mhm.
If she got or he got COVID-19 and they were diagnosed with COVID-19,
Mhm.
your body is already producing cells against COVID-19. The question is, how long do those antibodies that we produce, how long do they last?
Right.
So some publications say 6 months, some of those say 4 months, but we have a tendency to err on the side of caution because of these variants now. So what I'm recommending is that people usually wait 4 weeks.
Gotcha. Pastor Quentin Morris is here with us. He is partnering with us for this coming Saturday, the pastor of Tremont Temple Baptist Church, and somebody who has experienced COVID himself. Pastor Morris, man, thank you for joining us. Any comments or even questions for Dr. Epps?
Dr. Seals, God bless you. Dr. Epps, glad to be on with you. Thank you for your wealth of knowledge you've shared with me.
No worries, brother.
Definitely a proponent for the vaccine. Myself and my family both have been vaccinated. That's after we all contracted COVID-19 back in July of last year. However, on the offset of COVID-19, my son contracted MSIC after we had all tested negative. And I know you may be familiar with, but there may be others may not be. My son's heart and kidney had shut down to 50% functioning. He was in ICU for over a week. Like I said, my whole family, I didn't have no symptoms, never had a fever. And the son that had the MSIC didn't have any symptoms or fever until a month later.
Gotcha.
A month after the COVID-19, I'm not contributors to COVID, but my wife came down with leukemia.
Oh, wow.
And so we like, okay, all this going on at one time. And so since then, she has been in treatment since October up to June, and she got to go ahead to get the vaccination. So my entire family, my 13-year-old all the way up to myself, have been vaccinated. And we feel so much safer now. I understand that COVID vaccination is not a preventive measure, but definitely a covering. I needed that for myself and my family because with the onset of cancer for my wife, I didn't want to not live. My son missed school all last year because of COVID-19. So we at a place now, we definitely proponents for it. And Dr. Seal, I'm going live a couple of times. I'm overscheduled. So Saturday, I got to be out of town for a conference. And next week, I take my daughter to Carter. But I'm going live several times between now and Saturday, pushing people to get there because this is serious. And I'm still hearing whispers of I'm not taking the COVID-19. And for the gentleman that was speaking, I think it was, I'm not sure it was, that was speaking reference to people talking about tracking us. Every city I go in, my cell phone send me ads from that city.
That's it.
I don't know nobody where I'm at.
Right. You're
If I'm
already
in
being
Texas,
tracked.
if I'm in Texas, I get restaurant lists for Texas. I was in Orlando. I got ads from Louisiana. I'm just like, okay, how are they tracking me? It wasn't the COVID-19.
Right.
This phone that we cannot live without is already a tracking device for us. So for anybody trying to diffuse the conversation of being tracked, as long as you have a cell phone, you are tracked. So thank you for what you're doing, Dr. Epps. And my only question I have is, and I don't know if have I missed that in all my hearing about this COVID vaccination, how long would the vaccination be effective for an individual? Will it be a year? Will it be 2 years? Or do we need to do this every year? Because like you say, the cheese won't always be free.
I got you. Well, definitely, brother. Thank you so much for your comment, man. No one really knows the answer to that question yet. The antibodies that we have from either the vaccine or our bodies, they're testing those right now at 6 months. The longer we're in this, the more information we will have. Science says that once your body is exposed to something, either naturally or passively, I think we lost my brother.
I'm here.
Okay, either actively or passively. Passively means you're given the injection, your body goes through these changes to make these special cells. That's supposed to be lifelong immunity.
Okay.
When we were small, we got injected with the MMR vaccine, measles, mumps, rubella.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, measles, mumps, rubella. If you get your blood tested now for measles, mumps, rubella, we test for those special memory cells called antibodies. And we could test for those in the lab that tell you if you're immune or immune. The only reason why we don't know how long the antibodies last is because we don't have that data yet. The longer we're in the pandemic, the more data we get. So the more we're able to track and the information comes, right? So we are now able to say that once you get the MMR vaccine, those 2 vaccines that you get when you're a kid, now you have lifelong immunity. It's only because we've been tracking it that long. So the data is still coming out daily about how long these antibodies last. No, there has not been a decision made regarding a booster or not. Who knows if that day will come? I don't see a booster coming because we're not testing people's antibodies yet.
Gotcha.
What we should be doing instead of doing this nasal swab test is testing people's antibodies. Somebody's antibodies may wane after a time, but you may still have your sufficient quantity of antibodies that will last you a lifetime. So I hate to be so vague with the answer, but I want to be clear is that the data is still coming out on a daily basis about the quality and the quantity of the antibody response.
Gotcha. Well said. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Brother Hollis Johnson, do you have a question for Doc? We're going to do a few more minutes and we're going to get off. You're muted, so you're going to have to unmute yourself.
Yes. Thank you for the opportunity, Bishop Seals, and hello, everyone. Hey, Doc, I own a transportation company, and I'm just curious. All of my drivers are pretty much vaccinated.
Okay.
But I'm just kind of curious sometimes. The customers that get on, if they're not vaccinated, what's the chance of my guys even getting, even like, even though they're vaccinated,
Yeah,
and it might be 4 or 5 people with COVID on your buses.
I got you.
Is that tell me?
Yeah, that's not really an easy one, but I'll tell you what the data says. The data says that if you've been vaccinated 2 weeks after your second vaccine, you are considered immune.
Yes, sir.
So, but with that, you and your guys, because you're in an exposed area and you don't know the vaccination status of some of the people, I'm going to tell you, like I tell my little boys that box for me,
Yes, sir.
protect yourself at all times. Right? So just because we're vaccinated and we're outside that window does not mean that we stop washing our hands. That does not mean that we stop wearing our masks. That does not mean that we stop social distancing, because even though you're vaccinated, there is a small chance that you could still contract COVID.
Yes, sir.
Right? So we don't have 100% immunity. In fact, the scientists have done very good. They got us 95 with the Moderna and 96 with the Pfizer vaccine. So, but there's still a small chance of exposure to COVID.
Yes, sir.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. That's what I needed. And just like you said, I think you touched on it. We can't go by the social media and some of these pro doctors that say they're doctors and telling people that they shouldn't get vaccinated, and they are already vaccinated and they work at the hospital.
Absolutely.
So we got to be,
Absolutely,
we just truly
brother.
got to be careful of the people who say not to get vaccinated and they're already vaccinated.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wish we had more time. I would go on a tangent about why other races are telling the African American race not to get vaccinated when we're the number one minority that's being hit by COVID.
Most definitely.
I'll let you figure that out at home.
I thought was interesting that just happened 2 days ago. Senator Lindsey Graham, a very well-known Republican,
Absolutely.
came out and said, I have COVID. And I'm glad I got vaccinated because my symptoms could have been worse.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. You said something, but let me a couple of questions just came. So
Okay.
Does the blood type of individuals determine contraction of COVID or the Delta variant?
No, sir, not at all. There's no data that shows that. If it did, I'm pretty sure that some smart scientist sitting in the basement somewhere would pick out everybody who's O positive and said, you all need to get vaccinated. There would have been directives regarding blood type.
Yeah.
But no, I believe this thing is an equal opportunity employer.
Yeah.
It comes in all waves, all forms, shapes, colors. It has no respect of person.
Yeah.
It will get everybody.
You said it earlier. We're still learning. I mean, this thing is new. Not coronavirus. That's not new, but this variant of the virus is new. And so, we're learning. Somebody asked a question. Said a friend of mine got the Johnson & Johnson and was sick for a week. I received the Pfizer and didn't have any side effects. What is the difference in the vaccines?
Well, the similarities are this. The Moderna, the Johnson & Johnson, and the Pfizer, they are all efficacious against the COVID-19 virus. The way that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine was studied, it wasn't studied here in the United States. It was studied in South Africa and abroad. The Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines were studied here in the United States. So there were different variants overseas than there were here at the time that the vaccines were studied. That's the first difference. The second difference is that the technology that the Pfizer and the Moderna are mRNA viruses, mRNA vaccine. The Johnson & Johnson is a completely different technology. Hence, you only need one vaccine.
Right.
The efficacious rate for the Johnson & Johnson is noted to be about 67%. The Johnson & Johnson was pulled after 7 people developed clots in their lungs for unknown reasons. Now, it was 7 people out of 7 million doses had been given by that time. So that's a small subset of people. So after the CDC did their due diligence, they deemed that the risk was way less than the reward. So they started to do the Johnson & Johnson vaccine because it just wasn't enough data to prove that this vaccine was giving these clots to these people. Some persons will develop rashes.
Mm-hmm.
They may get side effects from the vaccine. Everybody is different. So we do, with every vaccine, there will be even someone who has a serious reaction to the vaccine. So, but that's not new information. We expect that with new medications. Right. We expect that with new technologies, but we still want to take all these cases seriously before we say this happens because of this vaccine or this happens because of this medication. So far, the data has been clear as to the safety as to all the vaccines that we have available now.
I have 2 more, and we're going to be done. If any pastor has something as we get ready to wrap up, you can pop back up, and even Brother Johnson and Brother Irwin. You mentioned this earlier, and I think this is the strength that I really want you to talk about just a little bit more, and that is, it has been said, how can they come up with a vaccine so quick? They haven't got the cure for AIDS, they haven't got the cure for cancer.
Absolutely.
And all those other good things. And you mentioned that at the beginning. So just as a recap for somebody who's just coming in, let's talk about that.
Yes.
Was it an overnight vaccine, or has it been here?
It is not an overnight success for these scientists. 50 years in the making, and it just so happens that a pandemic came up that we're able to exercise this technology. So just about as long as I've been alive, I'm 52 now, the scientists have been working on this mRNA technology. Let me briefly explain what that is. Mm-hmm. If there are any young people, and maybe some older people too, I'm finally learning what Snapchat is. Snapchat is one of these things that if you put a picture on your profile, it will stay there. Yes, a picture like that. It will stay on your profile for about 24 hours, and then it will go away. Well, in that time, the vaccine is showing your immune system what to fight. And then it slowly goes away, allowing your body to build its own cells, special cells called antibodies, to fight the coronavirus, fight the coronavirus. This is not new. So it takes about 5 years for a vaccine to come to market. Well, the CDC had actually stopped everything that was on their plate. The CDC has multiple studies going on at the same time. The scientists are trying to do things, come up with medications, trying to do this, trying to do that. What they actually do was clear their plate because we were in a world pandemic. So the CDC was focused on actually saving mankind. So new medications for diabetes, new medications for high blood pressure, new medications for cholesterol, all that stuff was tabled and shelved so that they could get together as to how to get this vaccine into people's arms. And it's just a testament to science. Once these guys are allowed to do what they do, and the red tape is cut away, this can be done more often. Science is science. It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. It's going to do what it's designed to do. So they have repeat studies. They do studies on animals, then they do studies on humans, then they do some more studies on animals, and then most of the studies that we do are on people we consider to be healthy. Mm-hmm. What we're doing now is introducing more people to this group. So people who have immunocompromised symptoms, those with HIV, those with cancer, right, those with different ailments that decrease the immune system, we're now bringing them into the study. The longer we're in this pandemic, the more we learn about these vaccines and other treatments. Please don't think that the CDC is not working on the pill. They just haven't gotten there yet. So what I'm saying to you is that as the technology progresses, so will our options. So when you say Dr. Fauci made a mistake or he did the wrong recommendation, that means he learned more. Because science will always have us learning more. These two vaccines, the Moderna, the Pfizer, and the Johnson & Johnson, these will not be the only 3 vaccines in the United States. More medications, more trials, more ways to get people healthy, because that's what scientists do. They find a problem, they try to solve it. And if the politicians would just let scientists be scientists and let the scientists speak up so the politicians won't confuse the masses, I believe the communication process would be a lot clearer. Because quiet as it's kept, Trump got his vaccine before he left office.
That he did.
Now, if he was so this and so that, I'm not sure where we come from in the African American community with all this foolishness if Trump got his vaccine. So he's not thinking of a television talking to him in his brain and just all this stuff that we hear. You have to get your news from a reputable news site. Facebook is not a reputable news site. If I wanted to put on Facebook that I had 1 purple foot and 1 red foot and I came from Mars, somebody would believe it.
Most definitely.
So there are people that believe everything that's put on the internet. Please go to www.cdc.gov and you can get all the information you need, because somebody probably already asked that question and there's a detailed answer for you on the CDC website.
Listen, I don't think you can get any plainer than that. We need to be vaccinated. There's one thing. When will it be available? This was not my question. Somebody put this.
No problem.
When would the vaccine be available for 11 and under? Has there been any talks going on about that yet?
That study is going on now.
Okay.
At this moment, my guess is that probably by the time this semester ends or by the end of the year, we will have that data. But what the data has shown clearly in 12 and above is that the side effects are very minimal. We expect to see those results mirrored in that age group that you mentioned. So that data will be forthcoming. However, that recommendation has not been made public at this time for those younger than 12.
The last thing, and I'm done. Let's kill the myth. And thank you, Pastor Robeson. He's here with us as well.
All right.
Watching us as well and supporting this effort. So we hear, again, we talk about it, the social media age and the information age, good or bad. One of the things I'm hearing to help detour African Americans from being vaccinated is the Tuskegee Project.
I got you.
Can you speak on that?
I can. And I knew that was coming up. I knew that one was coming. I was like, I know we're not going to get out of this without that one coming up. The Tuskegee Experiment happened in 1932 with about 600 African American men. 400 men were treated for syphilis. About 200 were left to their own devices. The United States Health Service was responsible for that study. Right. So what they did was they watched people live with syphilis for years. Even though penicillin was invented in 1943, I believe, 2 years before my mother was born, these men and women were not offered, and their families were not offered penicillin, which was the treatment at that time. 2007, I think it was President Clinton apologized for that study. Mm-hmm. Those families are still being reimbursed today. But that's something that could never happen again. There was no CDC at that time. There was no investigative review board at that time. There were no outside scientists outside of the government allowed in that study. So that study was specifically closed off. Informed consent was not given to those families, all of which happens today. That study could never happen today. With the watchdog organizations that we have people who have dedicated their lives to looking at the numbers and looking at the data. That could never happen today. We are worlds from that. So the Tuskegee Experiment compared to COVID-19 is like apples and oranges. We're just nowhere near that. We have so many safeguards in place because of the Tuskegee Experiment that now we have people who can look at data online. We can have scientists from all over the world duplicate our studies and see if they get the same results we get.
Right.
All those things, all those measures. The Investigative Review Board is a group of people that sit down and actually see if your study is warranted or not. And they give permission to these studies. The CDC just can't study what they want to study.
Right.
They have to get approval for studies. That's what lengthens the process, because there are a lot of studies going on at one time or during the concurrent with other studies. So this Investigative Review Board, they have to take time, understand the data, and that's what takes getting a vaccine through the channel so long, because the approvals needs to be given outside of the company that's sponsoring the data. Yes, there are companies that will falsify data. Yes, there are companies that will keep facts away from the public. Yes, that does happen for profit. But there are people like the Investigative Review Boards and the CDC that ask for all this data, and they take their time and they review it. So you can't move from step 1 to step 5 because that's what you want to do. You have to get approval for every step, right? So emergency use authorization does not mean that step 1 through 5 did not happen. It meant that those steps were accelerated to get approval because everything was not shelved except for COVID-19 trials.
Dr. Epps, thank you so much. Pastor Tillman, Pastor Quentin Morris, Brother Jerome Irwin, Brother Hollis Johnson, Pastor Charles Robeson, thank you all so much. Dr. Epps is a phenomenal doctor, and I'm saying that
Thank you, man.
It's the truth, and he's my doctor. Yeah, he's my family's primary care physician.
Yeah.
If you are looking for a doctor, here, Dr. Epps, don't you say a word. This is me talking.
Okay, no worries.
Here's the problem with the African American community. We'll have a bad experience with a doctor, and we feel like we're stuck there. We have to learn that in order for us to be serviced, we've got to seek out those who's going to serve us well and is going to care about our health and take time to care about our health. And I've been with Dr. Epps, I don't even know how many years now. I know at least 10 plus years now.
10 years, yeah, at least.
Yeah, and so it's because I had some bad experiences and I needed to find somebody who would take the time and learn. Most of all, find somebody who's a kingdom citizen. And Pastor Epps is a child of God.
All right.
I can tell nobody he's a preacher of the gospel as well.
Oh my gosh.
And so I had to find somebody and who is just kingdom minded. And I'm grateful for him. And so if you're looking for a doctor, definitely look up Medical and Associates on Stevenson Avenue.
Yes, sir.
In Richmond Hill.
Yeah.
And, he is here to serve us. And again, let me talk about Mona Lisa. Tell us what the other Dr. Epps does.
Oh, you know what? They do so much there. Man, look, you can go in there and get lost. Okay. They got things for weight loss. They have things for energy. They got things to make you feel better about yourself. Just the atmosphere when you walk in there. My wife prays before she goes in there, and she prays when she comes out. But she also has a mindset and a love for people. If you want what we call IV hydration, those of you that don't drink water or drink a lot of water, there's actually a drip that we could give you, which is fluids along with vitamins and minerals that will cleanse, detox, renew, revitalize, replenish your body. You feel like $1,000,000 when you leave. Those of us that just don't drink enough water.
Right.
We just don't. I have patients that don't like water. But she has a lot of things in there, massages, therapy, wraps. I know I'm forgetting something and she's going to get mad at me, but just a lot. Please go to Mona Lisa website and you would get a conglomerate of treatments that they offer. Those girls down there know what they're doing. My wife is banging. If you look at her, she does all the treatments. She's trying to get a brother down there. I just got to get some more time. But other than that, man, they do so much down there. Please check them out. They're right next to Carrie Hilliard's. So after you get your fried chicken salad, please go over there and say hello to her and let her show you some of her services.
That's right. And that immune booster as well as what
the immune booster. How can I forget that? I'm talking about COVID. They got a whole concoction they can put in a bag for you.
So I'll tell you this. I'm going. Dr. Mona Epps, I know I've been supposed to have been there. And I'm going to do a live to show what goes on.
Absolutely. She would love that.
I got to stay in good with both doctors. So.
All right, no worries. We can do it Saturday.
Let's do it. Let's do it
Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Afternoon,
no worries.
Yeah.
No worries.
I got you. So listen, y'all, again, our push for you is to go get vaccinated. That's our push. As Dr. Epps said, it is free. It is open. Go get it. I'm going to share again the information. And while I'm doing that, Pastor Tillman, if you can give us some closing remarks as I get the flyer together.
Yes, I can right quickly. Let me say, I'm starting another Zoom. Sorry about that. Let me say again to everybody, let's make sure that we get there on August the 7th and be vaccinated. If you have not, please do that. You've gotten the facts. You've heard a lot of things, you've heard a lot of things from a lot of people. But now we're giving you the facts. Listen to what has been said. Dr. Epps, you've already heard, you love the Lord, and because you love the Lord, He loves you. We're not telling you anything that's fake. We're telling you to please make sure you get the vaccination. If you have not, if you didn't do it at any of the clinics, if you didn't do it at the drugstore, you didn't do it at CVS and Walgreens, do it at the house of the Lord. Ooh, you got to feel safe then. You got to feel like you sure enough covered. If you do it, it's going to be done with prayer. It's going to be done with a lot of prayer and people who really care. So please, my brother, please, my sister, if you have not been vaccinated, go ahead and get it done on Saturday. If you get it done before Saturday, let your pastor know. All the First African Baptists, please encourage others to be there. You know your pastor's on vacation. I thought it's very important to make sure that we get this done. So I won't be there, but I'm asking everybody, make sure we have people in place, First African, and everybody connected with First African. Please be there to get vaccinated on Saturday, 9 a.m. to 11 o'clock at Connor's Temple, corner of Gwinnett and ML King.
Thank you, Pastor Tillman. Pastor Morris, you got any closing for us? And while Pastor Morris is coming, Dr. Mona Epps, can you put your website in the comment box on Facebook? And I know one of our followers will put it on YouTube as well, because somebody is asking for your website. Dr. Morris, go ahead.
It's just a joy and blessed to be here. Like I said, I was looking for a doctor, but my search is over. I think I have now. And we will continue to push, not just for Saturday, but continue to push the importance of the vaccination. I'll be doing calling posts for 3 months. I'll be going live, and we're gonna do all we can to get this city vaccinated. And I feel that a lot of our seniors are more concerned about their health than our young people, but we need our young people to jump in there because you need to be our seniors one day. So let's go get vaccinated. And I think this is going to be life-changing for many of us. Thank you, Dr. Seals. Thank you, Dr. Epps, for this opportunity to be a part of such a great vision in this city.
Thank you so much, Pastor Morris. And he's in your location too, Pastor Morris, so you have no excuse. Tell him I sent you, so maybe I get a discount or something.
Praise the Lord.
So listen, everyone, I want you to go get vaccinated. Information is on your screen. You can see these young men on this flyer has partnered with us to do this. I didn't want this to be a Connors Temple thing because this virus is not a Connors Temple thing. This is a worldwide pandemic that we're still in. So the faith and community comes together, and thank God for the core organization, community community organized, making relief efforts. Also, the Department of Health here in Savannah, they're all partnered to do that. As you can see, the barcode is on your screen. Scan that barcode. You can pre-register. You don't have to. It'll just save you some time. Johnson & Johnson and Pfizer are the two that they'll be offering. If you don't have a doctor, go to Dr. Willie Epps. You can get your vaccination there. They're doing Moderna, but he is an awesome doctor, and I'm glad to know him. Dr. Epps, again, man, thank you so much for taking of your time. And
man, no worries.
And I'm grateful for you and what you're doing. You do a lot of stuff in the community that people don't even know about, and that's good. You know, you see openly. So, all right, go home before you get in trouble. Y'all, thank y'all so much tonight. I pray that you have been informed, but most of all, I pray that you go get vaccinated.
Amen.
I'll leave you like I always say, better days are here. Most of all, your